Long before anyone had ever seen it, people believed in a great southern land. The ancient Greeks imagined the world needed balance. They knew of the large land masses in the northern hemisphere. To keep the earth from tipping over, they reasoned, there must be a huge continent in the south. They called this imaginary place Terra Australis Incognita, the unknown southern land. This idea was not based on evidence or exploration. It was born from a desire for symmetry, a feeling that the world must be perfectly balanced. This belief would capture the human imagination for centuries to come. This powerful idea found its way onto maps. For nearly 2,000 years, mapmakers drew a vast, mysterious continent at the bottom of the world. These maps were wonderfully creative, but honestly, they were pure fantasy. They showed a land filled with strange coastlines, rivers, and sometimes even mythical creatures. The shape and size of Terra Australis changed from map to map. Sometimes it was connected to Australia or South America. Other times, it was a colossal island of its own. These early maps show us more about human dreams than they do about geography. They tell a story of our enduring curiosity about the unknown parts of our planet. As the great age of European exploration began, sailors pushed the boundaries of the known world. They sailed further and further south, searching for new trade routes and new lands. With each voyage, the imagined southern continent began to shrink. Explorers rounded the tip of South America and sailed across the Pacific. They found open ocean where the old maps had shown solid ground. The great southern land was not where they expected it to be. Yet, the myth did not die easily. The belief in this hidden continent was so strong that explorers continued to look for it, convinced it was just beyond the next horizon. The search for Terra Australis became one of the great quests of exploration. It drove sailors into some of the most dangerous waters on Earth. They faced powerful winds, enormous waves, and the ever-present threat of ice. The idea of a hidden paradise, or a land rich with gold, faded. It was replaced by the harsh reality of the cold, empty Southern Ocean. The dream of a balanced Earth was a beautiful one. But nature, as we discovered, did not follow the neat rules of human logic. The real southern continent, when it was finally found, would be more challenging and more magnificent than anyone had ever imagined. In the 18th century, the spirit of scientific discovery took hold. The British Royal Navy sent Captain James Cook on a series of incredible voyages. His mission was to explore the Pacific Ocean and, once and for all, find the great southern continent. Between 1772 and 1775, Cook and his crew sailed their ships, HMS Resolution and HMS Adventure, further south than anyone before them. They were the first to cross the Antarctic Circle, a line of latitude that rings the southernmost part of the globe. They were entering a world of ice, a place completely alien to them. Cook's ships pushed deep into the treacherous pack ice. They were surrounded by towering icebergs, which he described as ice islands. The cold was intense, and the danger was constant. His wooden ships were not built for these conditions. They risked being crushed by the shifting ice at any moment. Despite the great risks, Cook circumnavigated the entire Antarctic region. He never saw the continent itself, but he came astonishingly close. The immense wall of ice that blocked his path convinced him that if a southern land did exist, it was a place of little value, doomed by nature to be forever frozen. After his voyages, Cook reported that there was no easily accessible southern continent. He had proved that it was not the vast, temperate land of ancient dreams. His reports effectively ended the search for a mythical paradise. However, he also noted something else. He spoke of the incredible abundance of wildlife. He described the immense populations of seals and whales he had seen in the Southern Ocean. This observation, though made in passing, would have a dramatic and devastating impact. It would soon draw a new kind of visitor to the far south, not in search of land, but of profit. Cook's journeys were a monumental achievement in navigation and exploration. He charted vast areas of the Southern Ocean and dispelled the ancient myth of Terra Australis. He showed the world the true nature of the Antarctic region, a realm of extreme cold and ice. While he did not set foot on the continent, his voyages paved the way for those who would. He had sailed to the very edge of the unknown world. The final step, the first confirmed sighting of the Antarctic mainland, would be left for the next generation of explorers who were guided by his charts and inspired by his courage. Captain Cook's stories of abundant seals drew hunters to the far south. This started a dark chapter in Antarctica's history. Beginning in the late 1700s, sealers from Britain and America sailed to the sub-Antarctic islands. These islands, like South Georgia, were breeding grounds for millions of fur seals. The hunters were ruthless and efficient. They came ashore and slaughtered the seals for their valuable pelts. The fur was used to make fashionable coats and hats back in Europe and North America. This was not exploration. It was a brutal industry that changed the ecosystem forever. The hunt for seals was incredibly destructive. Within just a few decades, entire populations were wiped out. The fur seals of South Georgia, once numbering in the millions, were driven to the very brink of extinction. The sealers worked in horrific conditions, living in crude huts through the bitter winters. But the promise of profit was strong. Once they had depleted the seals in one area, they moved on to the next, always pushing further south. It was during this quest for new sealing grounds that humans likely made their first landing on the Antarctic Peninsula, a grim first contact driven by greed. When the seal populations collapsed, a new industry took its place: whaling. In the early 20th century, new technology like steam-powered ships and explosive harpoons made it possible to hunt the largest animals on Earth. The great whales of the Southern Ocean, the blue, fin, and humpback whales, were the new targets. Huge factory ships were built, allowing whalers to process the whales at sea. They turned the magnificent creatures into oil, meat, and other products. Grytviken, on South Georgia, became the largest whaling station in the world, a place of unimaginable slaughter. The impact of whaling was even more catastrophic than sealing. Hundreds of thousands of great whales were killed. Some species, like the blue whale, the largest animal that has ever lived, were hunted so intensely that they nearly vanished from our planet. This industrial-scale exploitation left deep scars on the Antarctic ecosystem. The silence that fell over the Southern Ocean, once filled with the songs of whales, was a stark reminder of our capacity for destruction. This period of exploitation, however, also increased human knowledge of the region and set the stage for a new age of heroic exploration, and eventually, conservation. At the turn of the 20th century, the focus in Antarctica shifted from profit to glory. This was the beginning of what we now call the heroic age of Antarctic exploration. The South Pole was one of the last great prizes left on Earth, and nations and individuals competed fiercely to be the first to reach it. These explorers were driven by national pride, scientific curiosity, and, honestly, a powerful desire for personal achievement. They faced unimaginable hardships with little more than wooden sleds, ponies, dogs, and their own incredible endurance. Their stories are, really, sagas of courage, tragedy, and the unyielding power of the human spirit. The race to the South Pole became a dramatic competition between two men: the Norwegian Roald Amundsen and the British Royal Navy officer Robert Falcon Scott. Amundsen was a meticulous planner and an expert in polar survival. He learned from the Inuit people of the Arctic, using dog sleds and wearing animal skin clothing. Scott, on the other hand, put his faith in new technology, like motorized sledges and traditional British grit, using ponies and man-hauling. Their different approaches would, in the end, lead to very different outcomes in the most unforgiving environment on the planet. In late 1911, both teams set off. Amundsen's journey was a model of efficiency. His skilled use of dog teams allowed him and his 4 companions to travel quickly across the polar plateau. On December 14, 1911, they achieved their goal. They stood at the South Pole, the first human beings to ever reach it. They planted the Norwegian flag and made their return journey safely. It was a flawless victory, a testament to Amundsen's brilliant planning and his deep respect for the polar environment. Their triumph was a quiet, professional success. Scott and his team arrived at the pole over a month later, on January 17, 1912. They were exhausted and disheartened to find Amundsen's flag already there. Their journey back became a desperate struggle for survival. Plagued by starvation, frostbite, and extreme cold, they perished one by one. Their tragic story, discovered months later through Scott's diaries, captured the world's imagination. While Amundsen won the race, Scott's story of heroic failure became a powerful legend. Another great figure of this age, Sir Ernest Shackleton, never reached the pole, but became famous for his incredible leadership when his ship was crushed by ice, leading every one of his men to safety after a harrowing ordeal. After the heroic age, the purpose of Antarctic expeditions began to change. The focus slowly shifted from geographic conquest to scientific investigation. Technology played a huge role in this transformation. The introduction of aircraft in the 1920s and 30s revolutionized Antarctic exploration. American explorer Richard E. Byrd was a pioneer in this field. In 1929, he and his crew became the first to fly over the South Pole. Airplanes allowed explorers to map vast, previously unseen areas of the continent in a fraction of the time it would have taken on foot. They could see over mountain ranges and across enormous ice shelves. This new ability to explore and map the continent led to a new kind of competition. Several nations began to make territorial claims on parts of Antarctica, often based on the areas their explorers had discovered. Countries such as the United Kingdom, Norway, Australia, France, and Argentina drew lines on the map, dividing the continent like a pie. These overlapping claims created political tensions. There was a real danger that Antarctica could become a source of international conflict, just as other parts of the world had been. The continent's future was uncertain, caught between the pursuit of science and the ambitions of nations. A major turning point came in 1957 to 58 with the International Geophysical Year. This was a remarkable global scientific collaboration. Scientists from 67 countries agreed to work together to study the Earth and its cosmic environment. Antarctica was a major focus of the IGY. 12 nations, including the United States and the Soviet Union, established more than 50 research stations across the continent. At the height of the Cold War, scientists from opposing political systems shared data and worked together peacefully in the planet's harshest environment. It was a powerful demonstration of science's ability to unite people. The success of the IGY was profound. It produced a flood of new discoveries about Antarctica's ice sheet, its weather patterns, and the upper atmosphere above it. More importantly, it established a spirit of international cooperation on the continent. The scientists and nations involved saw the immense value of working together. They realized that Antarctica was too important and too challenging for any single nation to manage alone. This collaborative spirit, born during the IGY, laid the essential groundwork for the next, and perhaps most important, step in Antarctica's history: the creation of a treaty dedicated to peace and science. The spirit of cooperation from the International Geophysical Year inspired a truly historic agreement. The 12 nations that had been active in Antarctica during the IGY came together to create a plan for its future. They wanted to ensure that the continent would be a place of peace, not conflict. In 1959, they signed the Antarctic Treaty in Washington, D.C. This treaty, which came into force in 1961, is one of the most successful international agreements in history. It sets aside the entire continent as a natural reserve, devoted to peace and scientific research. The Antarctic Treaty has several key principles. First and foremost, it states that Antarctica shall be used for peaceful purposes only. All military activities, such as establishing bases, carrying out maneuvers, or testing any type of weapon, are strictly forbidden. This makes Antarctica the world's first and only demilitarized continent. Second, the treaty guarantees freedom of scientific investigation. It encourages the continuation of the international cooperation that began during the IGY. Scientists and data must be exchanged freely among all participating nations, ensuring that knowledge benefits everyone. One of the most clever parts of the treaty is how it handles the difficult issue of territorial claims. The treaty does not cancel or recognize the existing claims made by several countries. Instead, it effectively freezes them. It states that no new claims can be made while the treaty is in force, and no activities can be used to strengthen old claims. This brilliant compromise set aside the political disagreements, allowing nations to work together on the science without arguing over who owns the land. It ensures that the focus remains on cooperation, not on ownership. Over the years, the Antarctic Treaty system has grown. More nations have joined, and additional agreements have been added to provide even greater protection. The most significant of these is the Protocol on Environmental Protection, signed in 1991. This protocol designates Antarctica as a natural reserve, devoted to peace and science. It bans all mining and mineral exploration on the continent, and sets out strict rules to protect Antarctic wildlife and prevent pollution. The treaty system has successfully guided the management of Antarctica for over 60 years, preserving it as a unique laboratory for humanity. Today, Antarctica is a thriving hub of international science. Dozens of year-round research stations, operated by numerous countries, are scattered across the continent. Places like the American McMurdo Station, the largest community in Antarctica, and the high-altitude Concordia Station, a joint French-Italian base, are at the forefront of modern research. Scientists here study everything from the secrets of the universe to the health of our own planet. They drill deep into the ice to retrieve ice cores, which are like frozen time capsules. These cores contain air bubbles from ancient atmospheres, giving us a clear record of Earth's climate history going back hundreds of thousands of years. The continent is also a sanctuary for some of the most extraordinary wildlife on Earth. Penguins, such as the emperor and Adelie penguins, form vast colonies. Seals, including the Weddell seal and the leopard seal, thrive in the icy waters. And the great whales, once hunted to near extinction, are slowly returning. Because of the protections offered by the Antarctic Treaty, these animals are largely unafraid of humans. This allows for incredible opportunities to study them in their natural habitat. Strict environmental rules are in place to ensure that all human activity, from scientific research to tourism, has the minimum possible impact on this fragile ecosystem. However, this unique world faces serious challenges. The most significant threat is climate change. Antarctica is warming, especially the Antarctic Peninsula, one of the fastest warming places on Earth. This warming is causing ice shelves to thin and break apart. It affects the sea ice that many animals, like penguins and seals, depend on for breeding and feeding. The melting of Antarctica's massive ice sheets also contributes to rising sea levels around the globe. which could have devastating consequences for coastal communities everywhere. What happens in Antarctica does not stay in Antarctica. Another growing challenge is tourism. More and more people are visiting the continent to witness its stunning beauty. While tourism can build support for conservation, it also carries risks. It can introduce non-native species, disturb wildlife, and create pollution. Managing these challenges requires constant vigilance and strong international cooperation. The future of Antarctica depends on our ability to work together to protect it. The principles of peace, science, and environmental stewardship enshrined in the Antarctic Treaty are more important now than ever. This frozen continent at the bottom of the world holds vital clues to our planet's past and a powerful message of hope for our future.